Palmer.
Here.
Mr. Livingston. Ms. Giuliani.
Here.
Ms. Bellamar.
Here.
And I'm Joe Calma.
Okay.
Mr.
Before,
Giuliani is there. We're all here, he is there.
before we begin, I'm going to ask Mr. Henderson, President of Council, to say a few words.
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's my pleasure to announce that, we learned late this afternoon that we were granted $5.33 million in a FEMA grant for flood mitigation. And I want to thank all the Planning Commission and Council, both past and present, for all the work that's gone into this, but none more important than what Joe Cowler has done. And Joe, we thank you for your continued contributions to this community. And this is a great day for Bridgeville. I think that if you talk to most people, you wouldn't be able to talk about the future of Bridgeville without talking about flood mitigation. And this sets the course for us to start that process. So that, coupled with what we've gotten from our senator and a couple of other earmarks we've heard of, we are well on our way to phase one being funded. So congratulations, Joe. Congratulations to all of you on the Planning Commission. We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
all.
here, Mr. Powell.
All right. Mr. de Blasio.
Thank you. Planning. Without planning, there wouldn't be any money coming. So I will echo Mr. Henderson's thank you. Without that being there, wouldn't happen. And so I'm rising today to talk a bit about circles. And specifically, a traffic circle at the intersection of Bank, Lesnut, Chartiers, and Bayview Roads. This is an intersection that brings together two communities, Upper St. Clair and Bridgeville. It's a series of PennDOT roads. All of that is known to everyone. The question is, how can we take what was brought to us by students, you all saw, and perhaps get it to a point where there's money for it. And so I'm here to request that the Planning Commission consider recommending to the Borough Council that Bridgeville Council pass a resolution and communicate to both PennDOT and to Upper St. Clair that Bridgeville supports the idea of a traffic circle at the intersection of Bank, Chartiers, Lesnut, and Bayview Roads. And then I'm going to ask for a second thing. I'm going to ask that this body, at its future meetings, consider what kind of statue or art or whatever should go in the center of that traffic circle. We're not very in tune with traffic circles in this country. But when you see them in other places, they all have really cool stuff in the middle of them. And so I'd miss that that there is a piece for that. And I think that it would be really cool to come up with what should be put in the middle of it. You're going to have a lot of time to do that. Because if you, and I'm hoping that you will recommend tonight to council that they send that request to Upper St. Clair and PennDOT. And if you do that, by the time they're ready to do it, you'll have a lot of time to figure out what kind of artwork should go in the middle of it. That's all I have for on the agenda stuff. Or not, and then at the end of the meeting, I understand you want to talk about other stuff. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
To Pat's point, there's something we should, there's always, obviously there's been conversations about it. We've had the group that come, there seems to be support. Would you need something official from us to say, hey, tell Upper St. Clair?
I think it would help. It would hurt. I think before you came, I was telling Chairwoman that I talked to the Upper St. Clair manager last week. Last week, PennDOT had a ribbon cutting photo walk ceremony at the new roundabout on McLaughlin Run Road. and it was plugged to do a similar project municipally with Bridgeville up at the Ford intersection up there. I shared with their manager this morning, actually, the pit study. What I forgot to add is that he was going to share that with their in-house traffic engineer to see if it all jives, and then we can go from there. But I think to take it to the next level, it really wouldn't hurt
I'll make
having
that-
something
We'll
formal.
make the motion again.
Yes, so that something formal to go over, and then that could be a letter from, like we do typically, from you to the council.
Okay.
And then council could take it from there.
Okay.
And the project is already in, the active transportation.
Right.
plan. So there is something to hang a hat on. So it isn't like,
Right.
some guy thought it was a good idea and took it on his own. There is a plan to show.
Sure. Is there a fountain in it? Is it a fountain?
Yeah, that would be cool. It's something to have.
Big trout.
Trout. Big carp. No, it's carp.
All right, okay, moving on for the minutes. Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Sorry.
I got you, Joe.
Usually not much to say, I don't have much to say right here. About third item down on the new business, that item about Church's Park. We had a Parks Committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the topic came up about the soccer field sitting out there. What do we want to do? So we kicked some ideas around, not crazy.
No pun intended.
We thought maybe, Mr. Ducci and Nick, thought maybe it'd be a good idea to get some input from you folks. Now, according to this thing, it's up to you guys whether you want to go through the process of going out to the community and try to get all kinds of input on the thing, or just some simple ideas from you folks. Whatever, we just wanted to get some more ideas besides ourselves. So that's basically the thing.
Are you going to be here for the whole meeting?
Yep.
Because I do have questions in regards to that.
We didn't decide, the field's sitting down there, we want to leave it green space, or we want to do something.
Yeah, okay. All right, we can talk about it then.
Okay.
All right, so now, the meeting, minutes for the last meeting. Any questions, changes, or comments? All right, I need a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll make a motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so new business, and I'm going to read this because, first item is the Marie Johnson / Jazz plan of lots, subdivision lot line revision of two existing parcels, 254A-65 and 254-A-370. The plan proposes to convey 0.1003, approximately 30 feet in width, from 254A to 354A-370 to 254-E-370. The plan has been reviewed by the borough engineer and confirms to the borough's zoning and SALDO. Plan also reviewed by Allegheny County Economic Development, and they had no comments. Planning Commission to review and consider action to recommend approval to Borough Council. Any questions?
They own both lots?
No. Are you familiar with the properties?
No.
It says if you come up Union Street at the far side,
Yeah.
you go past Terrace Street, and then you turn left. There's a house right on the right, nice car,
Yeah.
and then there's a driveway next to that that goes to a house in the back.
Okay.
The house in the back is a fairly large property, it's an acre lot. That house in the back has been kind of sitting idle for a very long time, it's tax delinquent, went up through the sheriff's sale process. The new owner acquired, I believe that's Jazz. It's an LLC, it's not owner occupied, but he is selling 30 feet of the front of that yard to the guy on the corner. So the guy on the corner has just a bigger yard. And it sounds big, like 30 feet, but if you think about it, when you actually see it in real life, a a lot of it, cliff straight down.
Gotcha.
Dale, any questions, comments? Okay. So we do not need any more information, no questions, so
I
I,
have to go, the person that's buying this, are they living there? Or are they?
He's just gonna have a bigger one.
all right, I need a motion to recommend for approval by the Borough Council of the plan to convey 0.1003, approximately 30 feet in width, from 254A-370 to 254E-370. I need a motion.
Make a motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Aye. Motion passes. All right, now, McLaughlin Run Road Bridge near the park. You all received the PennDOT initial plans. Any questions, changes, or comments that you have in regard to that? Okay.
How long, that bridge just replaced though? Not that long ago?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
And this is 2026?
2025.
Okay.
The bridge is gonna be, I met with PennDOT folks there. You may have saw, maybe a month or two ago, there was some easement and construction easements that
Right.
were granted from the Borough Council to PennDOT for this project. I met with their engineers at the site. It is a year 2025 project. McLaughlin Run will be closed for probably 6 months, they're saying. It's not gonna be like the project down here at the south end as an accelerated bridge project. It is actually gonna be constructed on site, so the detour is rather significant around. There really wasn't anything exciting about the project. It kind of being rebuilt in kind, the road is staying as is. There'll be a wide shoulder for pedestrian access.
Do you need any space between the bridge and the water?
I don't believe so. But that comments like that are what we can pass along. What I did is I had this shared on the borough website. They're accepting comments right now because it's just in design. They didn't get very far with it. For those that don't have online access, the paper copies hanging in the lobby there, and it's also linked off the borough website. So if anyone's interested, for those living down there, I also included it in the last borough newsletter.
Yeah, I
It
did
was on
see that.
the top. So we try to get the word out, but I know there's been a desire of other PennDOT projects that are in design to have them, hey, at least bounce off of you, and that was what was done here. I gave PennDOT a heads up that this was going on, and they just wanted to convey that they were in design, and if there's any comments, please go to the link, and I can send it along if it came up tonight.
I have two questions. One is how many easements are they gonna require?
I don't know that number, but if you looked at that plan, it will say, you could see which ones would be required.
Okay.
I know the park ones have been required mainly to capture the existing guardrail in the front and for construction access. I know that they're gonna have to acquire something off of the Gallarducci's on
Right.
the other side of the creek. And I tried to facilitate a meeting with that, Bruce couldn't make it up to that one, but we communicated that. On the other side, I'm not really sure, as you can see, there's a lot going on in that
Yeah,
picture.
right.
And if you scroll in, you'll be able to see the required right-of-way
Okay.
lines and what have you. If you look at it, Justine, knowing that the park's already taken care of and the Gallarducci property has already been informed of them, they have a temporary construction easement and there's a required right-of-way line. On the other side of the creek, it just appears to be across from Bruce's house and not.
Oh, okay, not in that corner house.
So it doesn't,
Okay.
if I'm reading this right, the required right-of-way lines are bolded, and I don't see that one.
Okay,
So the little house that's owned on the corner there,
okay, all right. And there's no recommendation for a pedestrian sidewalk?
I asked about that, and they said there is no sidewalk on either side, and that's why they did do it. But if there is a desire for that, I can make sure that's passed along.
Okay.
Maybe it's, instead of having, I mean, it's not a really nice walkable road, but you
Right.
have the park right there. And if you have to walk on there, you get a walkway goes through the park, and then we used to have that bridge that went from the
Right.
ball field over to the parking lot there, and maybe you have it that way as your walkway. I don't know.
I don't follow you.
So instead of having a sidewalk that goes along McLaughlin,
Yes.
you make, it's a kind of a nasty stretch of road. The natural pedestrian walkway would go through the park and then come up through to where the old baseball field was,
I
if you
see.
wanted to get down to that.
So don't have anything on the bridge,
Yeah.
it should be the old way.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because the bend, like the S bend, is kind of
Yeah, it's
dangerous.
dangerous, cars zip around there.
Dan, did you have a comment?
Well, you asked the question, I was gonna ask about the sidewalk, so
Okay,
I'm good.
okay. All right, any other comments?
So there's nothing you'd like me to ask them?
The only thing bridges tend to be pinch points for flooding, as we're talking about flooding. And, just like we're taking the center mass there, here on Viral Road, if there's anything, you can't raise the bridge, but it ought to make it wider underneath, just to make it so water goes through it more, be aware of that.
All right, I'll make sure it's passed on. Yep.
There might be nothing they can do, they might really know this is how you,
Right.
but if you're gonna ask.
You got it.
All right.
Well, I do have a question, Justine.
Yeah,
Will this new bridge impact, section 3 of the flood mitigation plan that we kind of that we were kind of working as far as height or width?
I don't believe so. This bridge was never called out for.
Right.
The Baldwin Street Bridge was identified as a pinch, but this one wasn't. But like the Baldwin and Bower Hill.
Right.
And the culvert, and so we definitely went through the inventory of bridges, because the project, called for the culverts to be replaced with the bridge, called for Bower Hill Road to be the middle pier, and then depending on which path you chose, it called for the Baldwin Street Bridge to be risen. This one didn't say anything, so knowing that the inventory of to-dos, and this wasn't on it, I feel confident that it wouldn't impact it.
you hear that, Dale?
Yeah. My only concern is, things change over time. And, there needs to be some forethought on looking forward, 10, 15, 20 years at, possibility of issues with this business and flooding. That's my only comment.
So one of the things when we looked, or when it was looked at, the bridges that were reviewed in Bridgeville for potential change, is that based upon a 100-year flood or a 500-year flood? Do you know?
The project is being designed to mitigate 100-year flooding. 500-year flooding, here's how you look at 500-year flooding, is the height of railroad tracks. Look, when you stand out, when you leave this building, look across the street, the height of the railroad tracks is the second floor windows of the rear warehouse.
Yeah.
So you're building Holland dams,
Yeah.
I don't think it's within our means.
Okay.
But that's just from shooting off the hip knowledge of that project.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Nope.
All right, so let's talk about the Chartiers Park soccer
Wait,
field.
do we have to make anything on this one, the vote or anything?
If there really is no comments other than just say you had flooding concerns, I'm sure it's passed along.
All right, so question to planning is whether or not we want to strategize to see if this space on the soccer field should or should not be repurposed for a do have a couple of questions, but anybody else have comments, questions?
I mean, the one comment I have is the largest, flattest piece of green grass in the town. It's, you know, so whatever we do should be thought out pretty, you know, we should put a lot of thought into it. Because there's a ton of possibilities that you can do with it, you know, so it should.
Are we not worried about it flooding anymore?
No, it's gonna,
It's
well,
gonna flood.
so there was a talk years ago, you could let it turn. And the fact that it's in a floodplain is why you would do that, because you can let it get flooded, you know. But, I mean, I'm not saying it's a big flat piece of ground and build a piece of you know, structure there, but, you know, whether it's an amphitheater or multi-purpose fields or something, you know, it should be, you know, we should think about what it is, because it is such a big piece of property.
How big is the property?
100 yards by,
Over
100
100
yards, size
yards,
of a
I mean.
football field.
They were talking, BA was talking about a couple of years ago, putting a little T-ball field down on the one end of it.
Right.
So it's large and it's wide. I sort of, I'm not even put my into it, I like the idea of it being a green space also. There's plenty of room down there to put something smaller down there. Like Joe brought up the idea of maybe putting like a small venue down there, like for some singers or poets or whatever the hell you want to do down there. Down on the one end, you don't have to take up the whole thing.
So,
As far as building a building down there, I think it's sort of, in the winter time, it'd just be more for public works, having to salt the roads and whatnot. My thing, I didn't want to spend a lot of money down there anymore. I mean, we spent a boatload of cash down there on the park. It looks great. If we could put something down there, probably cheap, useful, fine. Like community centers. Years ago, Deb always wanted to put a community center down in McLaughlin because it was accessible all the time. But that's a big expense. You gotta build it, then you gotta heat it, then you gotta maintain it, so. Then you go look down the road, our public works guys, they're doing more and more and more with all these improvements. Sooner or later, we have to probably hire another guy or two, maybe, if things keep progressing. So that's, I worry about the money a little bit, but something small down there in Hayes would be great. I mean, we put an awful lot of money down there in the park, the playground, the equipment, the paving, and so that's my feeling on that.
so obviously it's still gonna flood, you know, so we don't want to put anything permanent. So now,
Well, no, you can put permanent stuff there that can be hosed. Like I said, if you put an amphitheater, you know, water comes in, it can get wet. I mean, the concession stand gets flooded, we just basically hose it to them, you know.
The people at the amphitheater who are listening to performances or whatever, what do they do if it's flooded? Do they go to the performance? Does the performance get canceled? I'm not-
because the field's gonna be soggy.
We don't have it.
It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, it doesn't, yeah, it's been flooded. Basically,
Quite a few years. since
it's
they've
been a
flooded.
while. I mean, when was the last time it got flooded?
Four.
4 or 5?
Yeah, I remember one under cleaning. It was longer than 5 years.
When the
Yeah.
park got wiped out, I mean, that was back when I was,
No, when it got wiped out, I'm just saying the last time it just got flooded.
It was 16
16?
or 17.
Yeah, so yeah, it's not that often.
Okay. Famous last
I mean,
words.
parking's a problem. You add another thing that's
Like a
happening on a
venue.
Saturday or a Friday, there's no space.
Yeah. Like I
The
said,
overlap with games,
Right.
like there's the pavilions being used.
So it would no longer be a soccer field, correct?
it depends what you do, there's room down there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
theoretically, you could reconfigure, I mean, there's goalposts down there too for football.
yeah, you
So,
can
I
go,
mean-
you could turf it and make it a multi-purpose field.
When you say turf, what do you mean?
Like, when you go up to Charters Valley High School, and you see the turf, it's artificial turf.
Oh, okay, all
And football, soccer, you have, what are you?
Pickleball.
What? Well.
We got two pickleball courts
You
coming.
can put pickleball courts there. But I'm saying, you could, there's multiple things you could do there, really, because it's a big space.
Thing is, that's like $1 million for that
Exactly.
special service.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
What's the matter with the soccer field?
Yeah, I know, that's
What's-
what I'm trying to figure
Are
out.
we eradicating soccer from Ridgeville, or?
I mean, are we trying to get somebody like other teams to come in to rent, or no? I mean, like Beeling.
We did a good job chasing one out, I can tell you that.
Mhm.
Who?
Beacon, they maintain the field, they cut the green,
My feeling, the reason why I brought it up is
Yeah.
more of Bridgeville residents using it,
Okay,
was my reason I thought.
all right,
Amphitheater, opportunity to do other things there. If we had to expand parking, we could a little bit.
right,
I mean, heck, we're even talking about doing fireworks down there on Community Day, yeah. I mean, get people to go down there for different things other than ball games.
right.
We're not saying that everybody who plays baseball and softball is from Ridgeville, are we? Okay.
All right, so I think maybe we should just keep this on for future for future discussion. All right, and let's think about what we could potentially do or recommend we do down there, and maybe somebody will come up with some different ideas.
I know a football team is looking for a space, we can rent it right now,
There we go.
so,
Okay,
okay.
any other comments? So do you guys, I know you said you don't really have any thoughts except for the,
We were just saying if it's not being used right now.
right,
Come to you guys and maybe see if you have any ideas. Am I saying that right, Joe?
Yep, exactly. And I wouldn't be opposed to putting nothing down there, I have a
Okay.
big field down there, so I mean, do, like they have the Easter egg hunt down there, but they don't take up the whole field.
Right.
So
Right.
it's-
all right.
That may go.
Okay, so we'll think about this soon.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
We can put her on the,
Back burner style.
Yeah, not that far
Yeah.
back,
put it for 2024.
yeah.
Okay? All right. All right, so let's talk about the 2024 budget. Since the Borough Council will be discussing this come October. The question is that, does any planning commissioners have a desire to ask for some money from council so that we could potentially do some projects, get some projects moving?
So we talked about this, and we're a planning commission, we plan stuff. So what does our budget pay for? It pay for the comprehensive plan.
Right,
But
right,
that's not a project, that's saying,
It's a planning
it's a
project.
planning project, but it's not like shovels in the, in the ground.
right,
So we asking for money for like projects that are shovels in the ground, because if I think if that's the case, isn't that something we recommend to council and say, hey, look, we want you to put shovels in the ground for this, and they have.
so here's my thought.
I know, we've talked about this,
Right,
that's
right.
we're having this conversation. and
My
part of that-
thought is that if we choose to, I mean, if we look at the active transportation plan, all right? And one of the things that came up in the planning comprehensive plan was that a lot of residents did suggest that we look into calming traffic on Washington Avenue, all right? So the question is should we decide to present that project to council, we will need some sort of drawings or plans to present to them. So that, not that they're gonna pay for it, I mean, not that they're gonna pay for the project itself, but at the same time, that will allow Joe to go out and approach for grant money, because we'll already have a plan in place. All right? So there's that. And Joe and I did talk about it briefly, and for something that's like that on a PennDOT road, that would definitely need to have official plans, official drawings. So that's one project. The other project is that if you look at the active transportation plan, or not active transportation plan, the Baldwin Street lots, okay? I was thinking that if we wanted to do something like the open air space in front of the Italian club,
Yep.
you know, what do we need to move that forward so that we can provide that information to council for approval? Because that's gonna be money spent.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little confused. I thought we were talking about Washington Avenue.
We were talking about both, I'm sorry, we're talking about something that came from the active transportation plan.
Right.
That was a recommendation. And then the other thing is that we're still gonna have 5 lots on Baldwin Street, okay? In order for it to move forward, Baldwin Street, is there a possibility that, you know, we need something, drawings or whatever, in order to get that moving? And even in fact, if we did garden beds, okay, do we need $100 or $200 to buy wood in order to build garden beds? All right, so I'm not asking for, you know, another $35,000.
Right, I know.
But, any comments?
Well, I guess if I'm hearing you right, I'm just gonna go back to the thing that I ran into in the paper about what you do with
The forest,
baby,
yeah.
they don't call them baby forests, small, what do they call them? Small something, or baby forests, I'll just call it that. That, for whatever reason, that becomes, they've become a thing in my mind. I mean, I can't think of anything better to do with those flat lots that we can't build on yet, because we're talking about the FEMA ones.
Right.
Than something that beautifies Bridgeville from at least 2 different directions.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
When your residents say that they would like a tot lot, or they would like garden beds,
Yeah.
or something else,
Yeah.
you know, bocce ball court or something like that, how do you address that? I mean, you can't do.
Well, I'm not suggesting that every single one of
Okay.
those places be a small forest.
Okay,
I'm suggesting that those kinds of alternatives seem to me to be marketable, interesting, instead of us trying to figure out if we're gonna say we're gonna take empty out lots and do gardening, flora and fauna type things.
right,
To have a concept that's a national concept that has a really jazzy name, easy to remember, small forests, that sounds good, it sounds interesting. And I think that, to me, that's the kind of, that's a personal opinion that I would like to see us do that on a couple of those lots. But we've got, it's not infinite, but it's a whole bunch of lots that we can do some interesting things with, right?
right.
We don't have to do the same thing on every one of those.
No, but if you recall, we had that discussion 6 months ago, when we sort of narrowed it down to what we did that survey monkey, what the residents wanted,
Yeah.
all right? And then we moved forward from there, so.
But that survey, and one of the decisions made was using them to put plant stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay, so I'm just suggesting small forest is consistent with that, as opposed to, well, I shouldn't say opposed to. You can have a community garden, you can have a community vegetable
right, right.
place, you can have all that stuff and still have this concept, I guess, to me, talking about a
Okay.
fairly serious conceptual plan
Right.
that,
So, maybe what we should do is talk to Tree Pittsburgh again, or suggest that we talk to somebody to see whether or not an urban forest like that would be appropriate for one of those lots, and where the money's gonna come from. Okay? And then Melissa came up with the labyrinth idea, which she's gonna talk about later.
is that a new, because I don't remember. Have you floated that before or something?
No.
That's fine.
All right, and it was probably gonna be a combination of the Baldwin Street history walk.
Your
And,
thing is?
Like you could put little, I mean, yeah, there's an opportunity to combo some things, I think.
yeah,
Like, put some plans in for more parks.
all right. Dale, any comments?
So, you know, I don't know that we need to actually have a budget. I think what we do is, you know, put forward, you know, whatever project or projects, put them forth to the council with a strong recommendation that this is something that, you know, should be done next year. I mean, ultimately, they're gonna have the final say as far as budgets and stuff go.
Right.
But, I think now's the time to be looking at some of the stuff from the active transportation and, you know, thinking about, the active transportation and what we know so far with the comprehensive plan and continue with some of the low-hanging fruit stuff with this stuff.
Do you have a specific,
No, you know, I mean, we started with a discussion about the borough budget, and then we moved on to some of these other projects. I mean, I think it's wonderful that they're, you know, pushing some of the Baldwin Street lots. But, you know, again, we've got to have an idea of what we want to do.
Well,
isn't that what we're kind of trying to do? As we sit here?
I mean, that was already established. As far as I'm concerned, that was established
All the,
after June, whatever, we went through the survey one year.
You guys are saying the same thing. If you think about it, if Dale's saying as a body, you would look through the active transportation plan and recommend a project that should be advanced next year. And for example, combining what we came up with through the whole planning process, the comprehensive plan and the walkability of the downtown, and moving forward with each, year, taking some of the aspects of the active transportation plan, implementing it, and like Justine said, maybe that downtown walkability improvements is something that gets recommended to council, be put in next year, and that's the level that planning commission stays at, and then it gets to my job to say, okay, to do item H of that plan was, let's just say, the design to do that center
Yeah.
island, I'd have to figure out what that would cost,
Right.
and then start running it through the budget process to put that engineering design
Yeah.
costs into the budget to do.
Okay.
Like typically for like planning processes, like if you had, we need $20,000 to do engineering, to do preliminary design and a conceptual drawing, to do some walkability improvements, that would be a general fund budget. To like put a shovel in the ground to build something on Baldwin Street, and it may be a capital improvement budget.
Okay.
So we're all talking the same
Okay.
thing, it's just, how do it best. So maybe if we just kept it
Okay.
high up in the air, it's like, hey, we think what project of the active transportation plan should be advanced next year, and that may be something simple as maybe it is something that you don't need full-blown plans to go out
Right.
to public bid, or if it is, maybe that's something that the council needs to know so that the engineering budget can be increased next year to afford something like that. So
Okay.
I think we're all talking the same thing.
Okay.
So if you kind of stay on that path, I can make, I can get you numbers. And
Okay.
then we can have that in track, but we need to start doing it soon.
Right. Right.
Because I already started on next year's budget, and it would be nice to have numbers, at least this time next month, so coming into early October, I'm I'm usually done.
Okay.
So, we
All right.
kind of need that.
Okay,
Now, me being done doesn't mean anything, it's that once it gets, the council
right.
can chew it up.
I just wanna make sure that we're trying to figure out what we can advance, where the,
Oh,
at some
yes.
level.
And it's
All right?
perfect, because if we stay on the track, like, if you look every month, I've been putting those like spreadsheets in your
Right,
packets.
right.
And if you look at that, this is the time to look, we have to like be a chess player.
Right.
And, the whittling away one or two projects a quarter out of the active transportation plan is working, and that's something that we need to keep cognizant of.
Right.
So, be a chess player and say, hey, what are gonna be the one or two big projects out of the active transportation plan we wanna push next year? Because next year isn't far away, and we have to think now
Right.
for that.
Right.
And if we do it now, we can be methodical and we'll do what we can.
Okay, all right, so we'll come back to you next month, September,
Yeah,
okay, with one or two projects.
yes, and I'll send it to the pipeline.
Specifically, fall,
No.
It's up to you guys.
across the board.
Whatever your recommendation is, your recommendation.
Okay, all right,
Because, just some background to other people that don't have like the council background, is we'll solicit the department heads and
Okay.
the various boards, committees to say, hey, what's budget request for next year? And usually it's just status quo, or if someone needs a new police car or a dump truck, that kind of stuff, so,
okay.
yeah.
All righty, all
But we
right,
did come up with budget things in the past, because we did have to put a match for the active transportation.
right,
So there
right.
was a line item.
right,
And when in the past, when they did all those Alden Street planning stuff, that was all line items when, even Lori would put money in there each year for planning, so those
Okay.
consultants were budget line items.
okay, all right,
Before we go to old business,
yes,
see if we can recommend to council that based off of the active transportation plan and representation from the University of Pittsburgh students, that we ask council to recommend a traffic circle on Bayview, Bank, Chartiers, and Lesna to, approach PennDOT numbers, however you want to word it, whatever the best way to word it. So make it official.
we need a motion.
I
Yes.
did-
Oh, okay, I need a motion,
I'll motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right. Comprehensive plan update. The public meeting was held on August 16th at the fire department. Your impressions of the residents meeting? Positive, negative?
I thought it was a good event. I thought when I watched online, I thought it was a good event. When we attended I thought that was very well attended. I thought a lot of people there,
Do we know how many residents there were actually there, outside of government, outside of municipal people?
Brandy would have that, I can ask, I don't have
All
that.
right.
it seemed like, the comments were, there wasn't anything, I didn't notice anything that came out of left field from it, and I think that's kind of what we were expecting, we've been working on this for a while, and, you hope somebody would come up and say, we've been working on this for a while, but you guys are.
Is there any one particular or two particular items that residents stated that stuck out?
There's a couple of ones that you see, and it's what we've talked about, there are questions like they're hard, and this goes back to what Joe is, hey, we put a lot of money into Chartiers Park. People in the community are like, hey, you've done that, what about up on this side of the, and, we all know that.
Right.
But it's like, how do you address that? Where do you find a piece of green space for a small park over there? Without buying something or,
Right.
Stuff like that.
I would say that was the only thing that really came up that night that we really didn't have earlier,
Mhm.
was the playgrounds on the hills.
Yeah.
Well, I
That was
thought
the
that
thing
the cleaning up the Glocklin Run from mine drainage was interesting, because I never, I mean, I had sort of thought that McLaughlin Road had been taken care of.
We talked about that a long time ago when we first started looking at flooding. And that's John Whaler.
Right.
He brought that up in the afternoon, and then he brought it up, he came to the meeting and brought it up again. So it's almost like a double hit, you know.
You know, the thing of it is that there is money from these
Right.
mining companies that are set aside in an escrow
Absolutely.
account.
So,
Right.
I mean, that's, I mean, it obviously, you know, if we could do that, you know, I don't even know what it would, what it would cost, what type of project it is, you know.
And you read the John Wheeler thing,
Yeah.
it's like, I know that one did cost 13 million.
Yeah.
For South Fayette, like, I remember that number.
Right.
But like, his article said it cost $1 million a year.
Right.
Where do you come up with that?
Exactly.
That's why we run the police department off.
Yeah, because I thought when we looked at it years ago, it was, you know, it's like, yeah, it'd be great, but it is expensive, you know, because it's just basically tapped in there. And
Right.
there's sulfur coming up. Now you got Orange Creek, you know. I played in that creek when I was little, didn't affect
I
me
get you,
none.
that's why I'm
Oh, I don't know.
There was feedback from one gentleman about making Chartiers more accessible to like Lower Bank Street area, walkable, like
Right.
finding another entrance path from Chartier Street, like the lower end of Chartier
And
Street.
we've talked about that too. It's like, how do
I
you?
thought that was interesting.
Yeah, we had, when we talk about connecting trails, you know, it's an easy trail, it's an easy, reach to get to Chartiers Park, to, Boyce, or like Upper St. Clair Rec Center, to Fairview, and continue on up. There's already natural trails. And then once you get to the Bethany Presbyterian Church, to go out to that way, to South Fayette, there's an abandoned rail trestle that can be repurposed. You know, so that is doable. But how do you get it from there to Chartiers Park? Because it's that hillside. And I don't know, you know, I know when we talked about, you know, PennDOT is going to fix Chartier Street. They're gonna redo that whole street. And we're gonna put sidewalks there. But, you know, I remember I mentioned to you, is there anything you can put, maybe that whole hillside? Could you build a trail, like a trail system into the hillside?
That's how the whole Chartier Street sidewalk came about. So
Yeah.
just, when they were doing that design, planning commission wanted a way to connect the park to downtown. You were basically doing what that said. And PennDOT came back and said, hey, there's no way we can do it, but hey, we can do these sidewalks.
We could put sidewalks all the way up.
And then that cycle came about, and that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I don't know what that terrain looks like, really, because you can't go and like stand over there and look at it, but
What train?
the terrain, like
Oh, terrain, it's a
over,
train.
like over that
It's
side
like
from
when-
the lower end.
Like when we were little, when we
Like
were
from
little.
the bridge.
Yeah, when we were little, we'd walk out of Chestnut, and there was a trail that went down there. But we were 12, 14-year-old kids, and, you know, we didn't care. That trail's not there anymore.
It is actually still there.
Yeah. But it's, you know, it's like,
People
you're
were
not.
looking for treasures last year.
To put a walking or a hiking trail along the creek there, I don't think there's really nowhere to put it, I don't think. And, you know, it'd be nice to put it along the
I
creek.
mean, I think you could have a trail, but
Yeah.
how would you access it
Yeah.
from that lower end would be the question. I think the trail part's possible.
I mean, that'd be ideal, I'd love to do that. And then connect it down to the library somehow. So you can walk to the library to the,
And cross over them.
and then cross over into Bridgeville. But, perfect world.
All right, so any other comments about the line items that the residents came up with?
Well, the only other comment I have is I think somehow miraculously I happen to be standing at that one place where fine art came up.
Mhm.
And the three young men that came over, oh, we need more art at the bridge. Oh, damn, talking to the choir. So, but we didn't get too much past that basic concept, so I feel like I have very little input aside from Yale Public Art.
since we got that grant, since we got that money from FEMA, that maybe we should identify, and that's why I asked that we put the plan for 1A on the website, so that people can actually go down and see how serious this is, and why we need so much money, and what it's going to do, what the outcome's going to be.
Are you talking about like that one-page plan that should say this is what Levyville, this is the bridge, this is the
I'm
pump?
talking about the 2021, there was a 2021 presentation from the engineering.
Yeah, you want that whole thing?
Just put it on, yeah,
Okay.
so people, you put a QR code or something like that, so people can go and take a look at it.
All right, I could do that this week.
I mean, that's my opinion, just so, like I said, it's great that, people wanna plant trees or do whatever, but at the same time, this is some major work we're going to go through, so.
Well, I think that to piggyback on what he was saying, I think it's a good opportunity to let people know that we're working on this kind of thing and the options that are out there, and it will potentially give some feedback from residents, especially in that, the Baldwin Street from really the way up to the Baldwin Street Bridge.
Okay. All right, so, the next, Mackin is preparing the draft plan, and it will be submitted to us in the fall. What are they talking about, October?
I believe so.
All right, so then we don't have a November meeting.
No, we combine the November.
Correct. All right, so the plan
Will be
is,
early December then?
June, I believe the first Monday we do.
Yeah.
and then we move it on to approve it, and then move it on to council.
After so many days of public input sessions,
Okay.
provided to all the neighboring municipalities, I believe they have
Okay.
45 days to comment.
All right.
Same with here, and then there'll be a public hearing,
Okay,
and then after the public hearing, it can go to adopt the plan.
all right. And all of that will be identified on the website.
Oh, yeah, it'll be
Our website.
advertised
Okay.
and posted, so that people have the opportunity to review the draft plan.
Right,
And
okay,
then chew it apart, and come to a public hearing, tell people what they think.
okay.
If it's ready, then adopt it.
All right, great. All right, excuse me, last but not least is the Baldwin Street flood lot repurposing. It's all yours.
Well, I've been thinking about this, but I did think Labyrinth would be a cool idea to put on one of those lots. But at the same time, we do have feedback from the community about that.
Maze?
They're not mazes.
Okay.
There's only one way in, one way out, same way, yeah. It's like a meditative sort of thing. People get stressed out, they could walk down there, walk in the labyrinth.
And then go to your warehouse and get,
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess
You've been
I
touching on
six
certain
there.
key locations.
No, I think it's a great idea,
I mean,
really.
yeah.
I mean, it's different.
Yeah, it would be different, it's
Yeah.
art, it's like living art.
Not yet.
Yeah, so there's one at, like, you can look up, there's one at Sonoma Colon, there's one at Washington Health System. So there are some around. I mean, you can grow, like, you can build, design them any way you want, like pavers, make it all stone, with grass paths, whatever. There's a lot of options to doing that. But we do have feedback from the community about other things that they're wishing us to do with those lots.
Right.
So I guess the question is, how do we make some progress with the lots that, other than the one that we're gonna plant trees on
Right.
in the fall?
Well, I think that maybe we should just get more information from Dory and see, because the one at Neverclaw is really nice. It's very nice. She's the one who designed it.
There's a woman who lives in Scott Township, it's called Labyrinth. Yeah. And she put that one in Navajo. It's just rocks.
It's just what?
rocks.
You mean it's rocks?
Rocks. Like she built the circles with stones.
So
She had a big pile of stones and
you're not looking at a 12-foot tall,
Edge.
piece of,
it's not a maze.
It was, I couldn't print it out. For some reason, the website wouldn't let you print, and it wouldn't let you copy it. It was very restrictive, so just go to the link.
Yeah.
So the last page of the packet was an email from Melissa.
Okay.
Just type in the link.
Yeah. I mean, I can text it to you or something
Oh,
too, but
okay.
yeah, it's, no, they're not, I mean, it's usually a circular path. Generally, they have like there's seven circles, and then you get into the middle and you have like a bench or something where people could sit and just, contemplate life, and then they come back out.
These are
I'm
things
sorry,
that
I went down.
coming out of the thing. I need to come and see.
Well, it's very Zen-like.
It's very, yeah, it is.
All right,
For our Zen community.
so so we're all gonna go out and look at the website.
Apparently.
Whose website?
Is there a link on the email that she?
All right, so any
Yes,
other,
again, I'm sorry, I've been really facetious.
hold on. Let me close out the business section first. All right, any other question, comments, changes? All right, so we're gonna close out the business section. Any other public members to be heard?
Yes, thank you. Not to put on the table, it's not anywhere on this or in the comprehensive plan. Overhead utilities. The spaghetti that we all live with every day in Bridgeville, because it's here. It's not easy to get rid of. I don't come with some brilliant solution to get rid of it. I come with a request that the planning commission consider comment or line item that it is a goal of our community that when possible and where economically possible, utilities, electric, cable, etc., be buried. Not suggesting that we embark on a multi-billion-dollar project. No. The comprehensive plan is aspirational. I'm asking planning commission, do you think it's worth aspiring to for our community? I mean, it is possible to do. We have done it on Washington Avenue. There were utility lines all along Washington Avenue, and we've started
Put
to.
those underground, or do we just put those a couple of streets the other side?
Most of them went a couple of streets the other side. Some of them went underground. So you have a little of both. And I'm suggesting that the planning commission make that part of the aspirational plan.
Normally, when you, for the construction problem, just like the bridge that is put in, we looked at putting underground. And the cost, it just wasn't cost prohibitive.
Right. Sometimes it's just going to be cost prohibitive and it's not going to happen. I'm not suggesting an ordinance. I'm not suggesting a requirement. Just like most of the things in the comprehensive plan, it's aspirational. And I'm suggesting that this would be something that Bridgeville should aspire to have when it can be done economically.
The community that we lived in outside of Chicago before we moved back home had all of the utilities underground, as did a significant chunk of communities in the Chicago area, basically because it's a freaking prairie. You just go stick it under the ground, no problem. But it does make a huge difference to the visual take of the community. I mean, I'm sitting over here thinking that's got to cost an arm and a leg, but it would be really awesome
Well,
if we could do it.
I mean, one of the things that we had talked about at the comprehensive plan was whether or not if we ever do develop the north end, all right, whoever develops it, all right, we will highly recommend in exchange for something that they put utilities underground.
And that's what I'm asking,
Yeah.
is for the planning commission to memorialize that aspiration in a comprehensive plan so that when you see things going on in the future, you say, wait, we're supposed to think about putting the utilities underground.
I do have one question, is, because I had a great conversation with that planner that lives up on, okay? And she was asking me about Saldo. Is that something, that recommendation or something, could that be put into Saldo or not?
Into your subdivision land development ordinance?
Yeah.
That could be a land development requirement, just like
Okay.
streetscaping. If,
Okay, all right.
Commercial development, let's just say Washington Avenue. Saldo is your subdivision and land development ordinance. The borough does have that.
Yeah, okay.
For example, we mentioned it tonight.
Okay.
That could be updated to recommend such principles as that.
I was just simply looking for something aspirational in the comprehensive plan. Yes, Saldo and I think, Joe, that there are some things in the ordinances right now that ask for, or, push for underground utilities. Oftentimes you'll see, they think that that's part of our ordinances now for new construction.
It could be.
I think it is, but that's not what I was thinking. I was much more looking at the broadly aspirational. If you can get into the comprehensive plan, I think you've done a great deal.
All right, thank you, Pat. All right, any other comments, concerns? All right, are you done?
I'm not,
Oh, we did not talk about the Allegheny County economic development survey that they did for Main Street.
this one here.
Yes. Which case, one of the things that I did see from there was their suggestions about parking, all right? So if we have some recommendations that would need to be addressed by the parking authority, correct? All right.
What was recommended by the county
Mhm.
would have to be implemented by parking authority.
Okay, all right, all right. So how
Now,
does
what
it get?
planning commission is a recommending body, if you think recommendations such as what their suggestions should be made to them, it
Okay.
could be an agenda item for a
Okay.
future meeting, and then it could be voted on, just like you did with the roundabout, but instead of going to borough council, we go to the parking board
Okay.
directly.
All right, thanks, we'll put that,
Would you like something from that
Yes.
one?
please. All right, anything else? I need a motion for adjournment.
I won't make that motion.
Anybody opposed? I need a second, sorry, I need a second. Anybody opposed? All in favor, say aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye. Okay, meeting's over.